Good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here. Welcome to From Ghetto to Mellow and back. Bringing you stories, uplifting observations, and some ha-has. And this is my face. And I got this wonderful technology of a green screen here that I got working for me. Needs a little work, but it's okay. We are here today to discuss some of the stories, observations in the South Bronx. And today I have a couple of doozies and then some observations, let's just say. So, South Bronx in the 1970s, as most people have heard, it had its roughest period, right? There was tremendous amount of drugs. There was fires, the typical fires that were happening during those years. Very, very, very scary situation that we were all involved in at that point. And one of the major things that I remember in particular that were pretty scary were the drug dealers. I'm going to talk a little bit about the drug dealers, not drug users, not people that were hard up for cash because they needed to get their fix. Hold on, I'm just going to change my computer real quickly here to see if this operates a little bit better. Not sure if it does, but maybe that will help a little bit because I'm a little bit sluggish on this system here for some reason. I got a. If you tuned into my earlier broadcasts when I was talking, I having a little bit of computer issue, but I'm hoping that this gets better as it goes along. So anyway, I just changed the resolution just to see if it's not so much power or whatever. Anyway, going back to this, I was talking a little bit about because of what's currently happening in the world. I thought, well, you can't avoid what's happening in the world, right? You have to kind of confront it. It's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to disagree too. I mean, it's not, at the end of the day, somebody is right. And if you want to look at it just based on just human rights, the right to live in peace and harmony, the right to be allowed to work, the right to be allowed to raise a family, to buy a home, to all these things are basics of life, right? It's human rights, right? The declaration, the International Declaration of Human Rights that was written in 1943, I want to say. Maybe it was a little bit later than that, but I think it was 43 by Eleanor Roosevelt. And a wonderful document, which really kind of, and it was signed by like 160 something countries or something. And it just has basic human rights. You can Google them, they're just like amazing. And so that's all really we're all looking for in life. And I think that that's part of the, the problem. I think that let's not go into what the problem is. Let me tell you a little bit about what's happening in the Bronx in the 70s. Here's the frightening thing about police officers. Not police officers in general, like they're frightening people, but I'm frightened for them. I remember being frightened for them when I was in the Bronx. When I was actually in the Bronx. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. He says it's quite smoother. My system. I need an overhaul is what I need because I'm now pulling a lot of juice, and I need just more power. So, more power, Captain. Swat, Scotty, we need more power. Okay, Captain, I'm sure I can get it. That's really terrible. I can get it better. I just have to work at it. So, in the 70s, a lot of people don't really realize this, but in the 70s, police officers, their guns were just 6-bullet revolvers. I don't know if you remember. Meanwhile, I remember seeing gang members, friends of mine that I grew up with Uzis, little tiny Uzis. with tremendous weapons, and here are these police officers trying to uphold the law, and they're basically firing with, in comparison, with toy capsules, toy cap gun, in comparison to what the freaking, thugs and drug dealers and stuff had. And they were the ones that really scared me the most because, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few incidences. I won't give any names. And actually, this whole series, I'm never going to give any names of anyone unless they are on the show themselves. But, one of the interesting parts about growing up in this environment is that you grow up with the gangsters. You know what I mean? Like, you literally are 9 years old playing with them in the park. And then somewhere around 10, 11, 12, 13, things start kind of taking a turn. Things start changing. Very interesting thing that happens. It's not for everyone to even listen to some of these stories, but I remember one particular guy. Again, I'm not naming any names of anybody, but this one particular guy, I grew up with the guy. Like, my grandma, I was raised by my grandma and my grandpa, and mainly by them. My mother was involved in my life as well, but they my grandparents would play with them, with friends. I would play with him in the park and stuff. We were kids, 8 years old, 9 years old, playing ball in the park. And my grandmother was friends with his mother. They were friends. They would we would go to each other's houses and hang out. And somewhere along the age of about 12, I have to say around 12, we lived in this building, this tenement in the South Bronx, where there was a fence in the front. It was kind of like a building that kind of went around like this, and then in the front here, it had this fence, this gated fence, a gated community. And I wasn't allowed to go out of that gate. It was a little corridor where you can run inside and play. There was a little area in the front. You can actually run around. Kids, so people can look out their windows and see their kids playing. It was sort of like a secured area as far as the South Bronx was concerned, and it was one of those buildings that didn't burn down. At this point, I was about 10 years old, I guess, at this point. And this gentleman, this guy, he was about a year older than I was, maybe 2 years older. He was just a little older than I. And we would play together. And then somewhere around the age of 12, when he was 12, and I was maybe like 10 or 11, he was able to go out of the fence. I mean, out of the gate. He just went out of the gate, So I was hanging out one day, and I'm standing there, and I'm at the gate, and a car comes by. He honks and stuff, and I go look, and it's him. He's in the car. He's like, "Yo, check it out! I just took it." I'm like, "You what?" I'm on the fence. I'm like this. "You did what? Yo, you probably shouldn't be doing that. I'm thinking." But he just he's stealing cars. He was 12. So I was taken aback, but I've always had a little bit of awareness, and my instincts told me right away. I said, I probably shouldn't hang out with this guy. But because I knew him, he protected me in a way that I think really helped me, because there were a lot of instances where I was involved in certain situations and people would not mess with me because of him. As he got older, this was like, now he's 12, right? Now we'll move forward a little bit, right? Now he's a little bit older. Now he's 18 years old and I'm like 16, right? Now he's all the way in. He's full into doing all sorts of like illegal activities, and so one day, there's two instances with him that were just really just was horrifying, but at the same time, it was kind of like, at the time I knew that there was it was almost like a cinematic moment in my life, and I was grateful that I knew him, To be honest with you, I was really grateful that he liked me, and that he had always a familiar he was always very familiar with me because we grew up together. His mom knows my grandmother knows him. So even though they're out there doing the crazy stuff, you still got to answer to your mom. And so he had that in him where we had that kind of like connection. And it was a very interesting, by the way, if anybody has any questions about the South Bronx or anything growing up or anything like that, please shoot them over. I love to answer questions about that. Or if anybody is in the South Bronx and has any input on what I'm saying, please, definitely I want to hear. So this guy and I, we grew up together. He ends up stealing a car about at the age of about 12, and as shocking as that was, it just escalated from there. So one day we're at the corner, hanging out in the corner, and he pulls up in a really nice car. Now, this is a guy. This is a guy who flaunted the fact that he was doing this stuff. Like he didn't care. The cops, again, bless them because they had, and they still have to this day, one of the toughest jobs ever. It's why they were called pigs, right? Because they have to have thick skin. You know what I mean? Because you can't just go around beating people. You know what I mean? Although sometimes some of these dudes deserved it. But this one particular guy, he was Puerto Rican guy like me. We were all, a lot of us were Puerto Rican, black Puerto Ricans growing up in that environment. My mic got muted there. All sorts of issues going on. But anyway, Al Pacino has this really interesting, great hat in The Godfather, right? This really brim hat. I don't even know what they're called. It's like a bowler hat, but I don't know if they're called that. Um, yeah, I think it's back now, Sean. Let me know if everything is a okay. I appreciate you looking out for me. um, so I started. Also, I'm hanging out in the corner, and here comes. He's driving in his car. He gets out. He's got this huge hat. It's like violet purple. It's like this violet color, huge, big feather on it, with this long fur coat, right? Out of a movie, right? You wouldn't even if it was in a film, people would think it was ridiculous and it's not believable. But trust me, this happened. This happened. He gets out. He's got this. He's laughing. He's making jokes. Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? Shakes everybody's hand. Well, back then we didn't really do this thing. I don't remember what the hell we did. Um, so he goes and he goes, yo, check it out. He opens his trunk, and in the back of his trunk, he has two M16s. Huge. He goes, check it out. He's delivering them somewhere. Now I'm sitting back and I'm like shocked, but at the same time I'm intrigued. I'm like, whoa! I'm like, look at this thing. He was like, carry it. So me being 16 years old and an idiot, I go and I carry it. I'm like, hey, let me carry this M16. Let me put my fingerprints on this thing. I carried it and I was like, wow, this is like so heavy. It was really heavy, by the way. It was, I mean, of course I was 16, but it was just heavy. And so, I put it back. He goes off and does his thing. But this was the kind of environment that we were growing up in, you know. So now, fast forward to today, and I'll go back and tell one more story before I end up on the same guy. But fast forward to today, just on current situations. I mean, look at the armor that some of these thugs had back then. And I call them thugs. Almost, I almost hate calling them that because I knew these people. I grew up with them. I mean, it wasn't what you'd think. I don't like that tea. Um, it wasn't what you think. We weren't hanging out going, yeah. It wasn't. It was just everybody just hanging out. It was pretty chilled out. It wasn't people dying every day. I mean, during the '70s, the fires were almost every day, and it burnt down more than half of the actual South Bronx. But there was still a lot of hanging out. There was playing ball in the park. There was jokes, a lot of jokes, a lot of jokes. You had to be able to be quick. You had to be able to be thick skinned because there were a lot of jokes. And me being short, I got hit hard, and I think it made me tough. Back in them days, there was no such thing as like stop being a bully. No, it was like you man up and you took the lumps and you learned to defend yourself verbally if you had to, and if you were big enough, you can fight. I was not big enough, so I had to like learn how to tell jokes and try to be funny and try to be likable, I guess. And that's what got me through. But also knowing this one particular guy got me through a lot of things as well. Um, but the police officers of today have it so rough because now they're up against not only in the inner cities with the actual gang warfare that's going on and whatever else is going on in the inner city that um, drugs and all that stuff that's going on, they have to deal with that. But now they're dealing with outside sources, outside organizations that come in and are saying what the problem is and dictating what the problem is. So now these poor police officers, on top of having to protect us and having to serve, they now have to go and handle and be confronted by this whole other organization, this whole other group of people that they don't even really know. Um, I always say bring back the cop on the beat. We used to have cops on the beat back in the day, right? And it would be a cop that everybody knows. The cop would come by, hang out, and this is what we had. I mean, I remember I was a break dancer back in the days, um, and we would get out our cardboard box, or we get our when we became fancy and we started making a little bit of money dancing, we would get like an actual carpet, like an actual linoleum. That's what it was. We get a nice piece of linoleum. We get out there. We put our mat out there. We put out a hat, collect some money for for drinks and from snacks and stuff. And I remember one day, it was one evening, we were out there, we're doing our stuff. The music is blasting. We used to use the light posts. You would open up the light post and you plug into there. You plug in your radio to the light post, and of course you're not supposed to do that. And the police, I remember a cop car coming by, turning towards us, and we're thinking like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. We were just dancing, but they came, and the guy came and he took his spotlight that was on top of his car, and he shined it onto the thing. And he was like, "Oh, let's see what you can do. Let's see what you guys can do." And it was awesome. And we were like, "Oh wow, all right, yeah, yeah." We all got excited. We turned the music on. We just danced all night. So this was the kind of stuff that was going on. People tend to forget that there were families living there. Families were raised there. I was raised there. I didn't leave the South Bronx till I was 25 years old. I have family there now. I have friends there now, living in the same areas. Doing great, by the way. Doing great, working, families. They're just they're doing great, but nobody focuses on that. What I mean? Nobody pays attention to the people that are there doing well. They pay attention to the few knuckleheads that are just making it hard for everybody else. And this is what the media focuses on. Why not focus on some of my friends that are raising families there, sending them to college? They're friends that I have that have gone to college. They've sent their kids to college. I started very late in life with kids, but I have people that are my age that have kids that have kids. They're grandfathers. I'm old enough to be a grandpa, and they've raised their families in the South Bronx, other areas of the Bronx, and that happens all across the country. But no, we're focusing on this other thing. So this is my little just 2 cents on it, because I was there in the Bronx. What I mean? I saw what was going on during the worst times. During the 70s and the 80s, when the damn freaking Bronx was burning, when people, gun violence was big back then. I mean, it was big. It was a lot. I mean, I saw by the age of 15, 16 years old, I had already witnessed at least 5 murders. Witnessed, saw them shot, die. It's something that you never forget. You don't sleep well at night, but what you do, it makes you so tough. nothing really bothers you. Like people saying mean words to me or calling me. Somebody just called me a Nazi because of some political thing that I posted or something. I mean, a Nazi, really? That's what you're gonna call me? I mean, that's as smart as you can get, you idiot. So things like that don't hurt me. I've been through so much worse stuff in my life. I've been through so much ordeal just trying to get out of the Bronx, trying to survive. Um, but during that moment, there was always moments of love, of laughter, of music and dance. All that stuff was part of my life growing up, and that really is what I take away the most from growing up in the South Bronx was that ability to still be in this environment and still find beauty in art. You know, that's why it's so important for artists to really get out there and to help these communities and to do the things that I had. Last couple of years I've been going into the Bronx and meeting with people there to try to figure out. I've actually, even now out from here, I had a guy on a couple of weeks ago, who has the Bronx Native, which is a shop. They sell a lot of merchandise with Bronx related. Wonderful, wonderful guy. He's doing it. He's there. He's in the Bronx, and he's making it happen. And it's so important to really support people like that in businesses as well. Remember, these businesses that are being destroyed are most of them owned by blacks and Latinos. The ones that are in these neighborhoods. So it's not like you're destroying the white man's place. You know what I mean? So there are no Whole Foods in the Bronx, as far as I know. Maybe there is now, but as far as I know, I don't remember seeing one. So it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky because even everything that I say is a little tricky because I'm not one to hold back on my communication, but at the same time, I am sympathetic of the anger, the frustration that's going on right now in the world. And because we had the same frustration in the Bronx. When you look around and you see 30, 40, 50 buildings go up in flames in the matter of about 5 or 6 years, you and not get rebuilt. You know what I mean? They just condemned them, they knocked them down. I used to play in these buildings when they left them up. We'd go in and we'd take the doors off the hinges and we would build a clubhouse in one of the lots. This is the way this is where we played. This was our playground. And when you grow up in that environment, you realize that pretty much nothing can hurt you. I mean, words certainly not gonna hurt me. If somebody takes a shot at me, they have in the past and they missed just once, but it's still frightening. I'm still, I think you can only kill my body. I do believe that I'm a spiritual being and I will go on. So, you can kill my body all you want, but I'm still gonna be here. I will be back. So this to me is a part of the narrative that I want to actually have on this show here, and I want to be able to not only share these stories and these viewpoints, but I want people to engage with me and let me know what they think, whether I'm right, whether I'm wrong, either or. I'm very prepared to take questions and to answer anything. So I love to have that conversation. Okay, going back real quick just to my friend growing up. So one day, this is actually kind of funny. I mean, but just shows you the confidence and the craziness that this dude was. He goes, we end up going to this, we used to go to this roller rink called Skate Key. It's on Allerton in the Bronx. And it was usually on, it was a roller rink, so they would be skating all the time. But then on Friday nights and Saturday nights, the skate ring would close around 7 o'clock or something, and then it would be dancing from 7 to about, I don't know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Same thing for Saturday and Sunday. And so I would go Fridays. I would go. I took a lot of these things for granted because I was sort of like a ghetto celebrity, so to speak. There was a lot of clubs that would let me in for free because they recognized my mock-up, because I've always looked like this, except now I have grays and wrinkles. But I've always kind of like had the same kind of thing. I've worn hats. I've worn whatever was the cool thing at the time. I would wear these things, and when I was dancing, I would wear these windbreakers and stuff, and with the white stripe and the red, those kind of things. And people just recognize me, so they'll be like, "Yo, come on, shorty, come on, you can come. Yo, shorty, come on, you come in." and they would just let me into a lot of places like First Class, and, the Limelight, and in New York, the Fun House, all these really popular clubs and stuff. And then in the Bronx, I can't remember. Well, there was that other place. It was um, Sean. Sean says, "John, yeah, wrong, dude. You're right. I am about a lot of things, but not much." Um, so Skakey we used to get in there, so we went in on Friday night, and it was one Friday night, and we ended up going with this guy. For some reason, he just kind of came into our group. I had my own little group of friends, but the dancing guys, he didn't dance or anything like that, but he kind of supported us, and we just all came out. Like I said, he was just a friend of ours, but he just happened to be this kind of really popular. He was famous. He was a famous gangster. I'll talk more about him moving through the series, because he had a lot of interesting things that occurred. So we get to Skate Key, and in the front of Skate Key, it's packed. There's just a lot of people getting ready to get in, and I'm already depressed because I'm like, oh, I got to get into all these people. It's just it's packed, and I've always never been really too good with crowds. I'm even though I do this thing, and I'm kind of shy actually. I'm not the guy at the party that's like, hey everybody. If I'm at a dinner party and I know the people, then I can kind of like do my thing, but I'm generally not that out there. So I show up and I'm like, so we're waiting. So there was these huge black guys, huge. Now my friend was not that tall. He was maybe 5'5" or something, and I go 5'5", tells you how tall I am. So these guys were big, just about 6 or 7 black guys, big guys. And this my friend, he goes in, he's gonna get in, he's like, yo, come on, follow me, and so we're following him and stuff. He grabbed his gold chain. He had this one of those rope chains that they have, and he puts it in his mouth. Now I'm going to curse a little bit because this is what I want to give you the full effect. So I apologize. Cover your children's ears. By the way, this is it's almost 10 o'clock. Kids should not be listening to this. But anyway, so I go in, I'm walking behind him. He puts the chain in his mouth. He sort of like does this kind of a deal, right? Like, let's say this is the chain. He goes, and as he's walking into the club, like this, he goes, get the fuck out of my way. Get the fuck out of my way. Get the fuck out of my way. To these big, giant guys. They weren't all black. I think the majority of them were these big black guys. That's all I remember seeing, because I'm short, so I'm like, yeah. And the guys just stood back. They just let him go in. And we just followed behind him. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, this can't be good for us. That's how I used to talk back then. This can't be good for us. So I'm walking behind him and I'm like, holy shit, So we just walked, but the guys they were really scared. And it was the first time that I realized he is very well known for being crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and this kind of like came to a surprise for me back then. It scared me a little bit too, because it made me also realize that what is he capable of? What can this guy be capable of? And mind you, this was a nice guy. This was a cool guy, funny guy. This was a really cool guy that I grew up with. So it was a really interesting thing to see that side of him for the first time. It was almost like he was born that gangster to me, and I got to witness an actual gangster, at a pretty high level, much higher than any other drug. He wasn't a drug dealer; he was a gangster. You know what I mean? Fancy car. He had the whole thing. He was the Michael Corleone of my neighborhood, and beyond that, I found out later on. So anyway, I will tell about where the story ends. I'll talk about the more stories on based on this, and based on this one guy. Again, I don't give his name because he's people know me, people know his family, they know him. I have not spoken to him in 30 years, 30 something, 35 years maybe. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. It's gonna be a long. I love that song. Okay, so there's my some of a couple of the stories of growing up in that environment, and a little bit of my commentary on the current state of our country, based on the fact that I saw certain things growing up that not a lot of people saw, and that was the hope. I saw a lot of hope in the Bronx. I saw a lot of wonderful families raising their children, working hard. People think that there are no workers there. Majority of the people in the Bronx, they work. They have jobs. You know what I mean? It's not what people think. You know, is there problems? Are there problems? Absolutely. Are there people purposely bringing in certain situations to try to keep them down? Yes. Yes. You think that's a conspiracy? That's okay. That's okay. This whole coronavirus people thought was a conspiracy years ago. Go back a few years and see what the conspiracy people were talking about. Go back a few years, you know, go back a few years and see what they're talking about the current riots and some. Go back a few years, you know, it's happened before. It'll happen again. People have been talking about this, and it's time that we, the minorities, as they call us, change the narrative. We change the way people think of the Latin and Black communities. We take responsibility for our communities. We protect our communities. So if somebody's coming in there trying to wild us up, we recognize them and you tell them. And actually, if you go online right now, there's a ton of videos of people protecting their communities from these people. I don't know who they are, but they come in with masks, and I look, some of their skin, they look white, so they come in with masks, and they breaking things and spray painting on stuff, and they're running around down the street just doing all this stuff. But there's a tremendous amount of footage of people being actually stopped from doing that. Very, very interesting stuff. You can research your own stuff on it. I suggest everyone research. It's so easy to put up a meme and just have a whole bunch of people just throw, videos at you and nonsense. I don't want to see nonsense. I want to see, you can show me statistics. You can show me an actual speech, not never show me a reporter talking about anything. I don't want to hear it, because it can be from anyone, or an article written, like what, I like to see videos. I like to see full videos. I don't want to see a video chopped up, to make some kind of, make it look like something. Show me a full video, because I could show you full videos. Oh, I could show you full videos from start to finish on things that I've showed them to people, and they've been like, because I thought, and you kind of see them kind of having a little bit of instability in their security. And I think that that's what a lot of it is. I was talking about this earlier to my wife. And one of the things that, when you really start coming to someone with facts and statistics and things that they can follow up on themselves, here, research this, here, research that if you want to, if you really want to know. If you don't want to know, that's fine too. You don't have to know anything. You can just go believe in whatever you want to believe. But if you really want to know, research this. And don't even research what I give you or what anybody gives you. Go out and research on your own if you really, really are interested in knowing certain things. But here's the catch. When somebody has invested so much emotion into a movement, and suddenly here comes somebody with something that will destabilize that narrative for them, you have a problem, because nobody likes to be standing up tall and then suddenly be be shook, right? Because now you're shook, right? Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. And when you have enough information that you can start throwing, well, look at this full video, look at the statistics, not statistics from a news network, no, not Fox, not CNN. I don't give a crap about those networks. I'm talking about the actual companies that keep these statistics, and they're out there. There's a bunch of statistics out there, you know. So here's my test, my challenge, I should say. Anyone out there that has a specific thing that they want to discuss, you know. Now I geared this talk on growing up in the South Bronx, because my experiences are valuable, because not everyone is able to go through the tremendous amount of violence and drugs and fires and all the things that I've seen, the crack cocaine that decimated so many lives that I personally knew. Um, not many people have that experience and then create a platform where they can go out and communicate that platform. Now, I'm not communicating it on a left, right, independent. I don't care about that. I have my views on that, obviously, and I do have my political parties, but that's not what this is about. This is about taking our history and re-examining it. Why did those things happen? Who were the groups behind that? Who were the politicians that were there? What did they do? What job did they do? Let's read some stuff based on what they wrote. Let's see some articles, some videos on what they actually said, and go back. It's sort of like reverse engineer, right? And go back to that time, the 70s, you know, because this is when New York was like such a shithole. I mean, people hated New York. You go to Times Square and it was just nothing but whorehouses and those peep shows and drugs and homelessness. It was horrendous, right? And then Giuliani came in, cleaned up a bunch of that. You know, I mean, he cleaned up a lot of it. He created a thing called TNT, which basically was, I didn't fully agree with TNT, but I understood what it was about, and it basically just had it was the technical narcotic, technical narcotic something task force, I guess, or something. I don't. But they would basically come in a van. These officers, and if you were in the corner and there was 15 guys just hanging out in the corner, they would just come, whoosh, put you up against the wall, throw, and because there was drug activity going on in that area, and they have proof that there was drug activity going on in that area, and that's enough for them to take everybody away. I got lucky so many times that I was just like hanging out. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and I'm just gonna leave, and then whoop 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 whoop, and this whole thing happened. So I got lucky. I don't know, you know, somebody was looking out for me, but I never got taken through that. And again, at that point, I was a little bit older anyway. I wasn't really living there. I wasn't really hanging out at that point. I was playing more music at that point. This was in the 90s, I guess. So New York was so bad back then, and then it got cleaned up. Then then it got very expensive. Then Brooklyn started getting cleaned up, became very expensive. Williamsburg, and now that's moving into certain areas. Then you got Hoboken, which used to be a hellhole, and now you can't even afford to live in. You know, people are paying $6,000-7,000 a month to live in Hoboken. Dummies. Then you have Jersey City, which was also a rough place and still has its rough areas, but for the most part now is actually really on an upswing. Bayonne, New Jersey, where I live right now, also right now on an upswing. So you have a lot of things that are actually really good, a lot of great things that are happening. So what happened? why are we burning neighborhoods now? And is it just the frustration of the Black Lives Matter issues? If it's just that, I have a tremendous amount of knowledge in that area that I can definitely uh, uh, diffuse that argument pretty quickly, as well as disabuse anybody of that narrative pretty safely, pretty comfortably. Um, really, where the comebacks would probably just come back as frustration, anger, and saying, "You're a Nazi! You're a Nazi!" Because that's usually when somebody gets to that point. It's usually because they've been shook. They don't have anything. They're angry, and they just want to. And that's where they go. They don't have enough. They don't have enough. They don't have enough. Um, and in the South Bronx, I was raised knowing that you had to be tough. You had to be tough. I mean, we were growing up in a freaking environment that was burning right under our noses. Buildings going up in smoke, like constantly. I have friends that are, that were paid $1,000. I remember I have one particular friend who that they knocked on his door and they said, "Listen, tonight, grab your things, as much everything you want, and get out. I'm gonna give you $1,000 if you get out." And they're like $1,000 in 1971 or 72, whenever I was about 5 years old. That's good money. Took the money and they got out. They got their stuff out. They definitely got a nicer place, and the place would be torched that night. And I saw the fires. I saw a lot of them happen. And was it a good experience for me? I think it was. I think there's a blessing when you're raised in that type of an environment and you manage to find your way above it, because it's not that whatever and whoever was responsible for that was not who we were. That was just somebody else's agenda. We got in the way, and some people had to pay the price by losing their homes, others by losing their lives, and that was just the reality of it. So we had to be tough. You didn't know when that knock was going to come on your door. You didn't know when, if you're hanging out with a guy who just slept with somebody over there and that guy found out, guns were pretty available. Guns were pretty. This is why the whole Second Amendment thing is kind of hilarious to me, that they want to take guns away from Americans, just from law-abiding Americans. I'm like, do you think all my friends growing up in the Bronx got licenses for those guns? Do you think they went in and, I had, they can get guns. There were guns everywhere. Everybody had a gun. You know what I mean? It's like, nobody ever went and got any license, and that would continue. As a matter of fact, you take guns away from law-abiding citizens, the only ones that are gonna have guns are the gangsters and the government. So, there you go. So that's an argument that, to me, sometimes is kind of hilarious. Yeah, do guns kill people? Guns don't kill people, right? People kill people, right? So, but if the gun wasn't there, then the person wouldn't have shot the other person. You're right. You're right. And how many people throughout history have been killing each other for religious? I mean, more people have died over religion than any other cause in the history of mankind, right? That's one. And you got, really, that's really the only thing. You got property wars, right? The Civil War, land dividing, brother against brother, right? The bloodiest war of all time. It was terrible. So you take away the guns, and they would have just found axes and just hacked away. You take those away, they just throw rocks at them, throw rocks at each other. It's a bigger issue. It's not the guns. It's the emotional impact that something is having on an individual, and that individual needs to be addressed, and that it needs to be addressed somehow. Who has the tools? I think religion has the tools. I think talking to a really great minister taking a course on spirituality, which I do often from my church. Um, Also, my pastor here in Bayonne, New Jersey, a wonderful pastor. I can go to him for advice, for counseling, way before I go to any mental mind psychiatrist or psychologist. Way more. I mean, I would never go to one of those guys because they obviously have a 18th century proven failure technology, unfortunately for them. But statistics don't lie, So I think one of the main issues that we have to address is how are we going to handle the human emotion of mankind? That anger, whatever that anger is, that's where we have to start addressing. And what's happening right now is just the anger part. It's the anger part, and what's handling it. Who's handling it? Well, supposedly we're getting help. Help. Is it the same people helping that rolled out the all the crates of bricks that they aligned? There's footage of that. Bricks aligned in a cage, aligned down the street. So, I mean, come on. I mean, in the Bronx, we knew that things were burning. We knew things was rough. You know what I mean? But if we saw somebody coming in here and saying like, "Hey, you should be angry. See these bricks? Throw it into that storefront. We're gonna line them up here. Aren't you angry?" We'd be like, "Yo, you get that shit out of here, yo. We ain't playing with you." Because that store was owned by somebody that we care about. We go there every day. We buy our 25-cent juices and our chips from that guy. We ain't gonna throw a brick in his store, you idiot. I'm not gonna destroy somebody's home, somebody's livelihood, which most of them were actually African American and minority businesses. I mean, what's going on? You know what I mean? Wake up. There's just this incredible thing. And that's how it was in the Bronx. It was like there was no awakening, you know? There was just no awakening. It was just like we were in this situation and nothing we can do. We had presidents come down, you know, Jimmy Carter came down, bless his soul, not he was too nice to be a president. Sometimes to be a president, you got to be really tough and you got to be kind of a dick. He was very, very nice. He came down to the South Bronx and got his ass whipped. Not physically, obviously, but people were like, "Get the hell out of here! What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Get out of here! You have no reason to be here. You're walking around in your shirt and tie, like you're gonna come in and save us. Get out of here." Ronald Reagan did the same thing. He came in and he was yelling. I remember this footage. If you go on YouTube, you can see footage of Ronald Reagan yelling to the people, "I want to help. I want to help." And people were like, "You get out of here." And he's like, "Well, I want to help." But he was yelling and yelling and people were not having it, not having it. It was because there's anger, man. There's anger. Who's creating that anger? That's the key. We got to find out who's creating the anger, who's putting those things in our heads, and change that narrative for ourselves and live the life that we are supposed to be living, because we are impactful. That's another thing. Africa, blacks, Puerto Ricans, Hispanics, of all, we are incredibly impactful in our music, in our dance, our foods, just so much, our style, the way we walk. We are extremely powerful, and that is scary to certain people, which I'm sure. And they should be, because we are incredibly powerful. So look at the greatest singers. Look at all the bands that are influenced by the blues, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, the Who. You can just go on and talk about those four British bands. You can talk about Elvis Presley in the South singing at the Baptist church, surrounded by amazing black talent. The blues, B.B. King, Robert King, Albert King, all the kings, right? And this is a very, very powerful platform. This is a very powerful foundation that we have, and if we realize how powerful our foundation is, holy shit, man, we are gonna be incredible. you know, and we love people. That's another thing that is really hilarious to me. Like, you can meet a Puerto Rican family, and if you are part of that group, whatever, they are going to love you. You are going to eat amazing food. You're going to get hugs, dances. You're going to get listen to great music. It's the same thing with the black community. They will love you. They will love you if you come in and you respect. They will love you. I mean, it's just the way it is. I did this would be my final quick story that just came to me. I did a photo shoot and a video shoot for a Baptist church in Jersey City, and I went by myself. I had all my film equipment and everything. I took the bus going over there because it was just a bus ride. It left me literally just a few blocks away, and I walked through this neighborhood that looked kind of rough, but I was like, whatever. So I walked in. I got to the church, and I shot this thing. It was actually at a community center for the church, and shot the event. It was a black church mainly. It was 99% black people, and I had the best time. I mean, they fed me really well. A lot of jokes, man. The, some of the funniest people in the world nobody has heard of. I mean, literally, I was laughing so hard. So at the end of the event, I start packing up my stuff and I start getting ready to leave. And I will mention Gloria Walton, who's a good friend of mine. She's a pastor, a reverend actually at the church over there, and she's just great. And so I was getting ready to leave and stuff, and I go out with my stuff, and these four black older women see me dressed immaculate. They were gorgeous, right? And they look at me and they go, "Where you going with all that stuff, honey?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go take the bus. It's about you gonna walk with all your equipment in this neighborhood? Are you crazy?" And then they start making fun of me because then they're all talking to, "Yo, come here. He's gonna try to walk from here to the bus with all that equipment. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine?" And they're all laughing. "Oh boy, you gonna show up in your house with only your shoes, if you're lucky." It was so funny. I was just laughing, and I was like, "Well, I mean, I could take a cab too." And they're like, "No, no, no, come on, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna take care of you. Come on." And then through the whole ride, they're like, "How can you believe he's gonna try to take the bus? This kid, you're so cute, man. I can't believe you. Thank you so much for doing." It was one of the that's a really bad impression of everyone actually, but um it was so funny. I felt so taken care of. I felt so respected. You know why? Because I was there to do a job for them. I was respectful. They were respectful, and it was a wonderful event. And things like that covered. Does anybody cover that? Do you see anything like that? No, we don't see anything like that covered. No, no. We see other things that I'm not going to go into. So, anyway, I think I'm wrapping up for the evening. I want to thank everybody who watched. I see a lot of eyes on here. Not a lot of comments, which is okay. It's okay. It's okay, man. It's okay. You don't want to comment? It's okay. 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 Um. So if anyone does have anything that they do want to talk to me about in the future, you can always email me at johnhenrysoto@gmail.com. For those of you who don't know, I do have a new JHS 1000 patrons account that I started just to see if I can raise a little bit of money, just to do a little bit more marketing for this for this show coming up, because I have a lot of guests coming up, and just to make a little bit more, maybe I can get some better graphics. Look at this thing. I did this. Maybe get a better shirt. But just spend a little bit more money on the production. And if anybody wants to join me on this journey, the JHS 1000 patrons is where you would join. There, I would have personal conversations with people, daily information. I would talk about what's currently happening. I'll go live a lot on the actual JHS 1000 patrons Facebook page, which is a private page only for the 1000 patrons. And I would also get involved in your projects. If you have a project that you need help in, I would be part of your project in any way that I can to help move that project along and see where it is and see if we can move it forward. So that's There's other things on there. If you go to the page, to this page, you can actually see, or just go to patrons.com and JHS 1000 patrons. If anybody is interested in just finding out what the hell that's all about, I do have one person, so you have to hurry up because I only have 999 spaces left. And this is my new Linktree account. Go here; it's got everything on there. But this is also on my website as well. If you want to, this takes you to all the pages, all my pages. Okay, well, very difficult situation as a Puerto Rican man. We are black, right? We are. Let me see what I got. Some lines here. Pastor Sweet Potatoes. That's right. Matt, thank you. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for listening. So my final thoughts for the evening. Thank you, Sean, as well. When you're growing up Puerto Rican, you don't know you're growing up Puerto Rican. You don't know. I didn't know that a Puerto Rican is made up of Taino Indians, African, and Spain, Puerto Rican. So yes, I am proud to be part black, absolutely. And but growing up, you don't realize that. You don't even realize black. Well, I didn't realize black, white. I didn't. Like I'd have my friends. My friend right there. His name was Carlos. Black. Hey, what's up, Carlos? The black guy. But did I say Black Carlos? No, it was just Carlos. Right. My best friend growing up, Caesar. He's Ecuadorian. Did I say Ecuadorian Caesar? No, he's Caesar. He's Ecuadorian. He's Caesar. We had Rich, and he was Irish. He was Rich. That's what we called him, Rich. And that to me was a very interesting way of growing up, because when I got old enough and I moved into Manhattan for the first time, I lived in the Upper West Side, a very prominently white community. I did see a little bit of a change in things. I did understand that, okay, I'm not from here. I got that. I don't look like these other, which is okay, But did I get racism? I didn't get any. I'm lucky. Maybe I have some type of a guardian angel that's always looking out for me. Based, on that, who knows? I don't know. But I will say this: we are all human, and that you cannot deny. And a human being has the same body parts. We all have hearts. We all have livers. We all have kidneys. We all have blood running through our veins. And there's one thing that I always tell people who doubt or question the existence of God or the existence of the human soul. And that is, think of something that you love tremendously, that when you think about it, you love it. Was that your brain making you love that? What was it? Well, it's you as a spiritual being. That's what it is. When I look at my kids, that love that I have for my children, you're not going to tell me that those are chemicals in my brain making me feel that. It's not. It's not. There's not even a proof of that to begin with. It is a spirit, and we are all spiritual beings, and we're all here on this planet for whatever reason to take care of each other and to help each other. And no matter how hard things get, we should always realize that the light at the end of the tunnel is only going to be reached by all of us walking hand in hand and getting there. And that to me is a great reason to try to make things better and to try to keep peace in your own hearts, in the hearts of others. If you are going to protest peacefully, be peaceful, look around, see who belongs there, see where the antagonism is coming from, and know that that person is also hurting for whatever reason. Something is going on with them, but they're still human. They're still human, and we all deserve the respect. We all have the same human rights on this little tiny blue speck of dust floating through space. We all have the same rights. Okay, so with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in. God bless you. I'll see you all tomorrow night for JHS interviews with my good friend Dan Gregory, actor and director, producer. Take care, everyone. God bless.